Oh, nice. You told me
I put you in charge of it.
I'm wondering if that's like
Hold on.
Organize it to
Come on.
But then some they're just accepting, oh, I wanted to just one day finish and that's it.
Whoever the last person that.
Yeah, I was figuring, I was thinking, oh, Kyrie's would be the best. Like,
Yeah.
so the least classes on Friday. And that would be the best. We'll see how the semester goes. It's just nuts. It's crazy.
Yeah. Really, that's exactly how it was built and so.
No, no, easier to do it that way
What?
in the future. From the, if you're gonna sit down and just do the laptop.
And then from like 17.
Yeah. But no, we're gonna sing. We're gonna sing.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're just using this for the slides.
Yeah.
Where are you folks gonna sing? Just right here?
Yeah.
But then they had to get it in pieces. So the bottom was one piece and then the side, you know how we had the butterfly?
Yeah.
The butterfly, it's like bamboo. And then the wing also, so it is different also, the three different styles. And it was one for like, ocean, and then more reef, and then.
I wonder if they use bamboo because it absorbs moisture so that it expands. I don't know, you know what I mean? So when it dries, you don't have that.
I was.
Yeah, but then there's some they use nails. Yeah, it depends where they use.
Hey, you made it.
Ooh, possible.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's your birthday.
We get like, we get suggestions and then so
It's about my TXT.
what is wrong, it's fine with these, because hotels are crazy.
And then so you gotta write everything. And that's where,
Did we talk so much more?
Uh, are you getting my screen share? Are you getting my screen share?
I see you, I see about,
Because I set it to share the. Have it. I have it on screen. It's it's set to share screen.
can you try and share, can you try and,
You got something?
More company. Oh.
Oh my God.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about it. She's home.
Good. Okay, gusto chuga nabida. Mensochi, Kimisochi, Penny David. Sorry, looks like all the Hilo people are in Hilo time. So they're still getting settled. But again, while we're starting, just to give announcements for the conference or our summit, Ryukyu Identity Summit, is going to be March 13, 14, and 15. So the registration is coming up soon, so just hold the date, 13, 14, 15 of March. That's going to be at the Windward. If those of you who need places to stay, if you don't have family there, I'm making arrangements with Pagoda Hotel for some good deals there. It's usually under $200 with all the fees, so that's one of the most affordable. Yeah, hard to find anything under $200 on that now. But that's double occupancy. Yeah. So again, you guys can think about that. Hope you guys come to the summit. If you're a student and you didn't get application for student waiver and travel expense, put in for that, or you can write to events at ukwanshinkabudan.org. Okay. So today we're gonna start with protocol again, because again for the Hawaiian side this is Kakaula. So let's just start with only by Kumunari. Yeah. Ko e ka vena ke au I ka lani, he veke veke I ka po pilipuka, he elele o ka poni poni hikina, kau ke ka he awana au I ka ala papa, la ia nei luna o ke kukulu o ka lani la, o ka ue uli alo nei ka ulu e ai ai. Wow, O mai la ko mala mala mai ka honua nei ka mauliola ua o Hawaii I ke olino nei mai ka pina ka velo na kala ka hiko ia I ka ike mano ka ike koli umai o ki kilo mai o ka uno ia o ka puulama apa amaka ipu o ka ike e ai ai ua We'll be doing the Okinawa protocol with music today to start off. So you guys can have a seat. And I uranda so wachi David. Yeah. So we put uranda in there because it's not the Lunar New Year's yet. So uranda means kind of like the Western. So our New Year is next month on the 17th. 17th. So I'll probably do something on the New Year for the next month's presentation. Okay, so we'll begin today with our theme for doing kind of a talk story. If you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to just interrupt or send a message. Those of you who are online, just kind of going through and showing that our language, it lives in our music too, or our music also lives because of our language. And that our language, our music is just not music. If we look at our music, it has a lot of, our ancestors created music to have a lot of passed down values, passed down things that we should learn and part of our identity. And some people say that our music doesn't connect us to our identity, or doesn't connect us to our land or whatever. But if we look at really the words, like how we're going to be going through, and you guys can look at the words today, that they really did talk about the value of our land, the value of our connections to where we are through the music. You just have to look and be able to understand and see that connection, through the words. Okay.
So we normally begin with what we call kari no uta. Kari no uta is, of course, songs that bring karyushi, that bring good fortune. And so a wide range of songs, but the traditional one that we usually open with is Kadedifu. It's probably the best known kari no uta. And like with most of the traditional classical songs, the poetry is interchangeable. There's hundreds of different poems that can be used with Kadedifu. Kadedifu is, basically anything that's celebratory and auspicious. And so this, the poem that we'll be using today is, traditional New Year's poem. To kind of help illustrate the point about the language being living and also the language bringing life. Songs like I mentioned earlier, right? That these especially the classical songs, that the poetry is kind of interchangeable, but you can't really tell if a song, any Okinawan, whether it's classical, folk, fast or up tempo, slower tempo, you can't really tell exactly what the feeling of the song is simply from the melody or simply from the rhythm. It's all based on the lyrics. And so how you match poems with songs depends on what the original poem that was attached to that melody that sets the feeling for that melody. So Kajadifu is not necessarily, to Western ears especially, is not necessarily the happiest sounding, right? The most joyful sounding melody, but nonetheless, the very specific sort of feeling attached to the song comes from the original poem. Atakaku no chichashi ini achondan kajadifu no chikui bitatu chichasa. And so what that talks about is the first commoner king, his name was Kanamaru, and he was a commoner in Izena Island. And he was known to be very extremely resourceful, and so it was his resourcefulness, his cunning that allowed him to eventually become, from being a farmer up in the remote northern island of Izena, to eventually become the king of the Ryukyu Islands. And so in his early days as a farmer, basically there was a drought, and everybody didn't have water except his fields. And so there were people that believe, and to this day, to the story, some people say that he was actually stealing water, and some people say that he was, just because he was resourceful, he knew actually how to manage this water in his fields. But nonetheless, the villagers accused him of stealing water, and so they chased him out of the village, and he fled across the channel to Okinawa, main island, and where he took refuge with a blacksmith in the Kunigami area. And so fast forward several decades later, when he eventually made his way down from that northern area, got different government posts, and eventually became a primary advisor to the king in Shuri. And so when there was a coup that overthrew the first Sho dynasty, the body of ministers agreed that Kanamaru should become the next king, and so he became the first king of the Sho dynasty, Shoen. One of the first things that Shoen did when he ascended the throne was he remembered that blacksmith. He called him down to Shuri, and he gave him land and title. if it wasn't for you, that I wouldn't be here. So the poem comes from that moment that this blacksmith set foot, that his eyes, that he first saw eyes on the royal palace. And what the word says, that the vision that I have before me, I can't even, it's something that I couldn't even imagine in my dreams. So to be this blacksmith now, to be here in this moment is something that's so, it's undescribable. And so that feeling of sort of this feeling of this sort of joy, the unexpected joy, and also relief, and also this idea of a new beginning. That's sort of the feeling that comes from that original poem, and it gets imbued into this melody, Kajidifu. So any of the lyrics that we infuse into Kajidifu now captures those same meanings. And so the more popular version of Kajidifu is the one that most people dance to. Kankyu no Fukurasha Naoni Janata. It's attached to another story from the royal, several generations later, that's attached to the royal court as well. And in that instance as well, it was a very tense moment that was going to decide the fate of where the court would go. And so Kyu no Fukurasha was to what can I describe the feeling that I feel inside me is just, it can only compare to the dewdrops forming on the flowers. And so that idea of dewdrops on the flowers, the flower petals, is the dawn, the dawn of a new day. And this marked this new beginning from the chaos that came from that time, the new beginning that came from this moment of sheer happiness. And so that feeling carries over onto more secular, more common themes. And so the idea that same type of feeling, that same type of auspiciousness, that same type of celebration comes down to something even as simple as a household gathering for the New Year's. And so the kelp, the seaweed, right? The tantukubu, right? And Eric has explained several times about the symbolism of that decoration. Right? The coal, the charcoal wrapped in seaweed is a very, very important symbol. And so that, just the presence of that in the house signifies this sort of cleansing, but then also the new year, the new cycle. Cycles are very, very important in Okinawan life, right? And Okinawan culture. And so the start of a new cycle is the promise for a new beginning, promise for a renewal in many ways, right? And so that renewal requires cleansing and kind of a fresh start to go forward with it. So that's the things that those kind of the symbols used to decorate the house during the New Year's represents. But then more importantly, this idea of youth as well, that there's the idea that the older you get, the younger the older your body gets, the younger your soul gets, until you become full circle. And so with every passing year, that again, it's because the beginning of a new cycle. It reminds you that you're entering this new cycle, which means your body is aging one more year, but your soul gets younger. It gets more youthful. And the idea that the more abundance you get from family and living, that you're, even though the years physically takes its toll on your body, that the richness you get from life every year, that it stacks up, that it enriches your soul, and your soul gets younger and brighter and more full of life. And so the new year promises the opportunity for more of that to happen until you get to the next renewal of next year. And so but without the language capturing that meaning, we wouldn't know what the feeling behind the song is, because unlike classical Western symphonic music and things like that, just listening to the music itself doesn't tell you the full story. The full story is how the language is embedded into that, is elevated by the sounds, right? But sanshin, the sound of the singing, and then not only that, but then how that language, how these basically 30 lines of poetry captures this snapshot into history. And more importantly than just the historic moment, but the feeling that those people had in that historic moment is what gets captured in the language. And so without that language, we wouldn't have the stories, we wouldn't have the reference to feelings, and we wouldn't have the reference to the cultural meaning of these very, very significant events like Sobachi. And normally we open, there is sort of a hierarchy in the presentation of songs. A lot of times you start from classical. We call classical song ukubushi, and it refers to, when I was young, I thought ukubushi meant because the songs were long and boring. We call them big songs because they take up a lot of time. But the uku, the idea of big talks about the stature of the song. So there's sort of this hierarchy where the music and dance that's attached to royalty, it's attached to the royal family, the royal house, is sort of what sets the standard. And so there's sort of this kind of top-down, trickle-down effect of Kariushi as well. So that if the royal house is in order, if the ruling party is in order, if they do things properly, then that produces prosperity for the rest of the land, for the people. So a celebration of the royal house then is a celebration for the rest of the people of the land. And so normally we start off with the ukubushi songs from that classical genre that's associated with the royal family, is sort of the way to kind of open up space, especially open up performance. And so we continue with another old song. It's a classical song just by virtue of its age, basically. But we're gonna also, it's one of the oldest examples of Okinawan appropriation from their neighboring peoples. So if you've been to Ishigaki Island, of course, Ishigaki is the home of the Yaeyama people, who were actually taken over by Shuri in the 1500s or so. And we get a lot of culture and a lot of great music and a lot of, particularly a lot of music that comes from that place. And so their music is so fantastic that Okinawans decided to steal a lot of those those melodies. And so this next song is called Kabiratsu Kame. And this is a very important song for the New Year's, not only in Ishigaki, but in Okinawa as well. The symbolism of the crane and the turtle, Tsukame, is a very important symbol actually across Asia. And so that symbolism, in Okinawa, there are no cranes and turtles in Okinawa. Well, kame, yeah, we have turtles, but we don't have cranes. It's too warm to have cranes in Okinawa. But the symbolism is something that's important, and so it's a reminder of the spread of culture that the basis of our culture is from the trade and exchange with our neighbors in Southeast Asia and East Asia. And in our music and our songs, we show these things that don't necessarily represent things that people physically saw in their environment, but these symbols and ideas that came down to us from our faraway overseas neighbors. And so the crane. The crane represents a lifespan of 1,000 years, and the turtle represents a lifespan of 1,000 years. And together both don't only represent a long life, but also prosperity and happiness, and for the families. And so when both the crane and the turtle dance together, then they produce this this veil of good fortune for families and communities to prosper. So this song takes into not only those symbols, but also the symbol of the pine tree as well, which is if you guys do kadomatsu, to the Japanese tradition of kadomatsu, it's pulling in the pine, bamboo, and plum flower blossoms into your home as a way of bringing in good fortune for the New Year's. So, all these symbols are super important for New Year's across various cultures in Asia. So it's one that gets pulled into our culture in Okinawa via Ishigaki. It's a song called Kabira. Kabira is the region where it's actually from, Kabira Bay in Ishigaki. So, that's what it comes. Okay. Continuing on. Okay, we'll do something that's pretty familiar to you folks. Hopefully it's familiar. We do it all the time. Actually, we'll do a medley of songs. So Yutakabushi, Iwaibushi, and Meretaibushi. So we move into sort of more of our folk song traditions. And this is it's a cool mix of songs because they're we tend to think that like all Okinawan songs are old, but a lot of the Okinawan songs that we sing are actually have been written in the 20th century. And so Yutakabushi is a good example of that. Of these three songs, it's the newest song. Might have been written, I think, in the 1960s, 70s or so. But actually, yeah, someone passed away relatively recently, maybe within about the last 10 years or so. Nobody called Seiji wrote this song. And yeah, Yutaka means prosperity. But the song, nowhere in the song does it mention one thing about material prosperity. It doesn't talk about money, it doesn't talk about having a nice house, it doesn't talk about having property. All it talks about is having laughter in your soul, having being surrounded by people that you love, and celebrating and being thankful. And so that yeah, that is the sort of the ultimate idea of prosperity for Okinawan families, for Okinawan communities. And the New Year's is especially a time that you reflect on that. There's two some of the two most important times for Okinawan families is Sowachi, traditionally the Lunar New Year's, and the other one is Soro or Obon. Those are the two sort of the two most important critical gatherings for the family. And so it may be coincidental that they're spread apart roughly, kind of halfway through the year from each other. But the importance, the significance of Sowachi. So when you talk to a lot of the older folk, especially like my sensei's generation, stuff like that, what they would always say is because, well, for one thing, a lot of those people were so poor that the only time that they got to eat meat was those 2 times in the year. And so, particularly Sowachi was, if you're a kid, if you didn't understand or didn't care about these things about, the bigger things about like family and life and prosperity and all these bigger things, it was like, this is a time that you get to eat as much as you want, you get to eat much rice as you want, you get to eat good food. But, it's kind of telling, it's something that reminds us, right, that this time that we have so much abundance, that we have so much rice that we throw it away, right? We have all this extra meat, so be careful of your cholesterol, right? We're actually preventing meat. There's people that, that extend out their diets, and we purposely, find, we have extra that we throw away in our plates. And so, yeah, the New Year's, so watching things like that is in looking at that prosperity, in looking at the cycle, right? The cycles of life that the New Year kind of reminds you is the approach of another cycle, and the New Year, is the entrance into yet another cycle into existing as a family and as a community. It reminds you of what it took for you to get through the last cycle, right? And it reminds you to be thankful of all the things that you got that helped you get through that last cycle. It's a time for that reflection to hope for and to pray for the things that will get you through the next cycle. Every time you get around to that cycle, right? So you do that for the Sowachi, for your living family, and for your living relatives, right? And then, and the biggest time to reflect that time and share that time with your relatives and family is during the long time. So, yeah, and the idea of prosperity is not, when we talk about prosperity in these songs, we're not talking about, it's not about bragging and about just celebrating having a good life, but it's enforcing that idea of appreciation, that all those things came at a price and they could be lost at any time. So, these things are not something that to be taken for granted, but they're not something that we're just given to you for free as well. It came from someplace. And it's a time to reflect. So anytime, in that sense, anytime we sing about prosperity, it is sort of there is somewhere in there is a prayer sort of embedded into the language as well. And so another, an important phase of that language is when you use words like yutaka, when you just translate them directly, just to prosperity, just to abundance, right? They mean something different in English for the lives that we live here right now, versus if you look at the original context of what that word means. You know, in a sense, yutaka and prosperity are actually two different words. When you think of the cultural context and the place and time that they're from. And so it's one thing that, yeah, as you look through these the songs that we sing, and you look at the lyrics, yeah, think about that, how these simple words that we take for granted, like prosperity, through long life, abundance, that, yeah, that they meant something different to our ancestors. And those are captured, yeah, in the language that they use and the way that they put the songs together and the way that they celebrate. Okay, so we'll do these three songs, Yutaka Bushi, Meretai Bushi, and Iwai Bushi and Meretai Bushi. So you guys might have noticed there's some words that weren't translated. And I might have talked about this before too, but so a lot of you folks are familiar with heishi as just being sort of those calling response, iya, sa, sa, hai, all those things, right? And a lot of those sounds come from working, yeah. So, older people, local people, a lot of people, local people, when they sit down and they do the Japanese one, dokkoisho, yokurasho, right? But traditionally, a lot of Okinawans would do like yasasa, things like that, yeah. And so, yeah, a lot of those yasasa, haya, suri, all those things come from sort of working. But heishi also refers to certain phrases that actually do have meaning, but not necessarily tied to the original poem itself. Like so, Iwaibushi is a good example. The chorus is mostly heishi. So, saasuri yubana ure. Saasuri is just, those are just working sounds basically. And the idea sort of is like, right, when you work, you expend a lot of energy. And so that energy is part of sort of what you have as your sort of your life flow, right? And so expending energy in that same kind of energy you expend in working is also the same kind of the energy you expend when you celebrate, when you dance, you sing, you laugh. There's a physical reaction, right? But that's a kind of energy. So the idea is that those tied together positively to for you to function in your life. And so those things make into the songs and sort of helping to kind of create that positivity. But then phrases like yubana ure is an interesting one. It's not used, it's used a lot in songs, particularly songs from Yayama. And there's a lot of these heishi words are sort of like older words that don't have meaning in contemporary Okinawan language or contemporary language use now. But Yubanauri is a good example. Some people say that if you break that word down, yu refers to the world, or the world that human beings exist in, right? The plane of existence, I guess. Yuba, ba is a particle, and then yubana, naure. Naure refers to sort of healing or fixing, balancing. And so yuba naure, a lot of people say is to basically is a phrase that says to balance the world, to bring pono, to bring balance to the world. And so a lot of the celebration songs actually incorporate that. So even if it doesn't have literal meaning in contemporary Okinawan language, a lot of the heishi will kind of throw in these words, and they're more sort of, instead of having sort of literal meaning, they're more to kind of bring out that feeling. When you hear that word, you feel a certain way. So yeah, that's another function of heishi as well.
Okay, so I'd like to transition into another genre of folk songs. So again, when we talk about folk songs, those are the songs that were done within the community, especially with the village people, with the regular people. So it's more relaxed. It's very participatory, and kind of like, I guess, for those of us who live in Hawaii, when we go to pa'ina or we go to parties and you see people just get up and dance when they hear a song that they know, when they hear a mele that they know. Same thing in Okinawa too. And then like what Norman was talking about, the heishi, when we were at Wipsy, we heard heishi in different languages in different cultures. Maori have it, Hawaiians have it, the Micronesian communities or those states have it. So in all of their, it's all what makes you feel good. There's no rules as to, you shouldn't do that, you cannot do that. Yeah, what makes you feel good so that you become part of the song, you become part of the story that's being talked about. So it's different ways that you can think about the story too. So like in the next one, where we talk about going into umui, umui uta, which is love songs or songs with a lot of has like that kind of that kind of feeling in it. This next song especially was done by a first generation here. Those of you who are familiar in Oahu with Daikokute, or used to have Daikokute on, I think it was King Street, by Higaseiru. Yeah, so Higaseiru had that. He wrote this song, and it became very, very popular in Okinawa. So what this song talks about is about mito buni. Mito is like a husband and a wife. Yeah, and buni or hune is boat or ship or canoe. Yeah, and what it talks about is that the body of the ship or canoe is the symbol of a woman, and the mast is the symbol of a man. And for this vessel to journey through the ocean, they both have to work together. They both have to be together. They both have to be strong. They have to be able to go through all kinds of weather. Yeah. So it's a song that people use for like weddings and things like that, or to sing to people when they get engaged or married. But also, what the way it was taught to me was by the person who made it popular in Okinawa, Itokazu Kame. She told me that it was also meaning about people and community. That people also have to work together, community have to work together, or else things don't work. Yeah, that the body of the ship, you can be the most successful person, yeah. But then if you don't have the other pieces to bring everything together, things don't really work. Yeah. So also talking about how we travel through our lives, how we go through the ocean, or thinking of the ocean as a symbol. So our ancestors are really, really smart in using this symbolism because that's what they saw and they experienced every day. Nowadays we drive cars, we ride buses, we have transportation. When we're walking, we don't realize the plants that we see on the side of the road, or when we go to the beach, we don't look at the way the water moves, things like that. But those things are very important, especially in our identity as indigenous people. So to bring that back again and really look at the songs and see what they mean by the way that it was written again. The language is really, really important, and without language, we don't have the life to our identity. Yeah. So, mito buni. Back and forth, or? Okay, so continuing with another kind of, I guess, umui uta, but also this is one that a lot of the songs that the folk songs have what we call kugani kutuba, yeah, or proverbs, or in Hawaiian we call it ololo no eo. Again, our ancestors are really smart in looking at things, even in predicting things. This next song kind of goes with what we have now too. Not only, I don't know if it was really like that in the time that this song was written. Maybe so, but to look at what's happening now, especially with families, with leadership. Yeah, when we look at what we call power, power in the Western sense, we can see what that does. It makes people put down people who are below them, people who are less. It makes people do things that are violent, do things that destroy land because they think that they have power over things. But in the indigenous way of thinking, we look at power as something that we work with. We work with people. Power means, for us in the indigenous view, that we have a privilege, but then it also comes with a lot of responsibility. if you have power. Because we look at the way that our leadership was. If the like songs that were written about even the king, yeah, it talks about if the king didn't take care of the people, he wouldn't be king, because the people would get sick and die. Yeah. So we look at those kinds of things. Our idea of power is different. Yeah. Power means responsibility, means to take care, means to it's something that's reciprocal with the people, that you have so-called power. It's a relationship that you build with people, and it's not necessarily that you're way up above everybody and control, but it's again a community and relationship kind of thing. So in this next one, we can look at the words, and I'm not going to explain too much about what the words mean, but look at the words and see if you can see people that you know who's like that, who's like what our ancestors talk about in this next song, because it is happening. You know, our families are not as close as they were before. People even, you know, you might think of either family members, friends, or even some leaders in our government who are like what they talk about in this song. Yeah. So I'd like to do for you a song called Shin Nakushi.
Yakoto
So question, did you guys see or figure out somebody who you can match to what was described in the words?
Everybody knows somebody, right?
I can think of one. He's orange.
That's it.
Okay, so wanna I guess open it up to what you guys thought now, since you guys looked at the usually when people perform, you don't have words in the front of you explaining the song. You looking at the song, and it's kind of, we're talking about it a little bit about something like this coming on the flight today. And I thought about growing up and going to Shinenkai, going to the picnics. You heard the songs all the time, yeah. Didn't know what it meant, but our Issei, our first generation, did. They knew what the songs were about. They knew what it meant. Could it be that they just thought that, oh, it's gonna just go into us naturally, like how they did? They learned it because they spoke the language, yeah. So they knew what it was. From the second generation, some of the second generation on, these things weren't passed down to us. We just were taken to events, we heard the songs, we can connect to the melodies, not necessarily we know the words or anything like that. But it doesn't have any meaning, so that could be one reason why our younger generation don't have too much connection to it. Also, the younger generation don't have exposure to it. Yeah, like at you guys Shinenkai, how much exposure do the young people have to entertainment, to the Okinawan entertainment? Yeah, how many young people even go? And then also, the people who are there too. How much culture are they really exposed to? As to, compared to us growing up, all of us, I think, like even remembering what Shinenkai was like here in Hilo before, for what we participated in before, it used to be a lot of entertainment and a lot of culture, including the food, yeah. But a lot of those things have changed in all of our places, and I think that's why, it's getting, the gap is getting bigger. And even if we're mixed, more mixed cultures now, I think more exposure to that, it can help in making the gap smaller, and bringing the identity to the younger generation. Because from what we heard at WIPSI, from those who came and talked to us after or made comments after our presentations, like there are a couple from this island who were part Hawaiian, who never even knew about any part of their own Okinawan side, yeah. But they came to our presentation because they were like, wow, Okinawan presentation, we want to go listen to it. So there is the interest, yeah, there's the interest, but it's providing the space, it's providing, the places to have that kind of stuff, or for people to come and experience. But like, what do you guys think or what do you guys feel from looking at listening to the music again? You know, some of you might think, wow, that was so nostalgic. Reminds me of when I went to Shininkai, or that reminds me of when went to with grandma to this event, or you know, the birthday parties, or you know, that kind of stuff. You know, it used to be, from what I remember, you know, like going to stuff in Hawaii, like Pa'ina and stuff like that. It used to be like that before. Like how the Hawaiian culture is getting more, and the younger people are picking up the music, and you know, going into traditional music and doing things, and people having that culture at all of their events now. It used to be like that at Okinawa stuff too. But then what happened to it? You know, are we gonna just say, oh yeah, that was nice back then? Yeah, remember that? That was good. Or are you gonna bring it back again? Yeah. So those are some things that I always think about. You know, how can we do this? That's why for us, for Ukwanshin, we make it a point, especially for the Lunar New Year, yeah, to have an event. So on the 17th of February, 21st of February, because 17th is the New Year celebration, or the Sogachi. On the 21st, we're gonna have the Lunar New Year celebration. Yeah, we make it for the community. We make it so that the community can come celebrate our New Year, our Lunar New Year, and we make it so that they can come and see and experience the traditional culture, the dances and the music, and how we celebrate. Yeah.
I was telling Gary, the Okinawan songs are very meaningful after reading the lyrics. It really touched my heart.
Yeah, how do we get that? How do we get that connection to the rest of the community, to the younger generation, you know?
Like you said, we listen to the songs, the melody sounds familiar, but we don't know the lyrics. But today I read the lyrics, and it's so meaningful.
Yeah, but it's hard to, because you cannot do this kind of stuff at Shininkai. Like, okay, we're gonna talk about the songs when we play it. It's kind of hard. We try to do it when we do performances, but we cannot do lecture like how today is, yeah, because people are just gonna sit and go, oh, too much talking, want to hear more music, want to see more dances.
Can you translate it and sing in English? That way
Yeah.
people would understand what the
Well,
song
no,
is about.
So I was gonna ask that question actually. What if we just skip the translation? What if we just go straight to English? Would it be the same? Then you'll get the meaning direct, right? Right? So if I sing like, in this day now. Right? So I said. In this day now, there's something so important that you need to know. It's about our, right? What if we do that? You understand all the words, right? But is it the same? Right? But what? I mean, you gotta get a better singer, of course, too.
Why are you guys laughing? You understood.
Can you do something like sing using the Okinawan words, and then just instead of singing in melody, just kind of, you know, like
Give a background.
sanshin is in the background, and then speak it, because it's much more grave when you don't do the melody part.
I think I know what you mean. Like how they do some Hawaiian songs. Yeah. They sing part of the song and then they talk about the song with the music playing in the background, and they continue
yes.
they
And
continue
then
the song.
it seems very, you get both worlds, and it's very serious.
Mm.
I mean, I'm just thinking a little bit simpler, but even if we have the lyrics at, Shinenka and the tables, and playing the music in the background, you hear it, and as people talking stories, they can read what it means. Because even like this last song, if I was to try and explain it to someone, sounds like I'm gonna give my political view on this whole thing, or I can totally twist this thing completely
Why
around.
political?
I mean, well, it just sounds like I'm something, I'm preaching something, right? But,
Yeah.
if this is a piece of paper that says this is a direct translation, I mean, people might look at it and go, oh, it's, really interesting, and they might listen to the song a little bit more. So I don't know if I could get a copy of the translation kind of thing, and just kind of share it. Because I remember looking back, way back in the programs for Shinenka like that, they would have different songs with the lyrics. I don't remember if they had the English translation. I could probably think of a few old ones, but something like that, I think might be kind of neat to have, especially Shinenka.
When I was in high school, I took a course, and we have to, we saw an opera film, and it was completely in Italian, but we had the translation, so it was we could follow along, and it was, we understood what all of the singing was about. So it's almost the same thing if you have something.
Yeah.
Because I mean, similar, arguments have come up over time. Like there was a time. Well, so if you guys ever went to performances at UH Kennedy Theater, one of the things they do is, so they have a strong Asian theater program. Right? So every few years they'll invite a kabuki master and they'll do a kabuki presentation. Then maybe every few years they'll invite like a Beijing opera master and they'll do Beijing opera, right? But the thing that they always do at those performances, they always translate the whole work into English. And they perform it completely in English with English subtitles. So basically, imagine kabuki, right? Right? That voicing in English, picking opera, you folks know, right? They're really high. All that in English. Right? And so that's the thing. Like, so imagine, and so that would be similar to what I just tried to poorly do earlier, right? So they're taking the tonality, the melodies, and everything, but then just completely changing the language to something that's accessible, right?
I feel that there's a disconnect when you have a traditional song with indigenous language, and when you're incorporating like English into, like, let's say, like Bushi or anything in any language, there's something missing because it's not technically authentic. And then as far as like getting the lyrics up there so that the people that are listening to it that can read it, like the screen, I think that is the way to do it. Because you can put it on paper and you can have it in front of people, but you may not actually be looking at the paper.
Yeah.
When it comes to performing, at least people are going to be fixated on something like that. And then you don't take away from trying to translate because it's already up there.
Yeah. Because the closest thing would be like your subtitles on your Korean dramas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've done stuff like that. Like even when we performed in Okinawa, he would always put the translation in Japanese. So it's in the back while we're doing the singing. But I think like what you're talking about, the tonality too, or the melody, is very what is that? I can't think of the word. But like the way that they create the music and then match it up to the words, or I don't know what they do first, whether they do the melody first or the words. But the way that they do it, it really catches here, and it puts the emotion into the song. Yeah. So like even in Okinawa dramas or plays where they have musical plays where they have things, there's like scenes, or even if you just hear it, like like somebody that just got killed, or somebody that is leaving and they're never gonna see them again. You have these melodies where all of a sudden it's like Akka! Yeah, and that's like that's like it's something that you don't have to translate. Yeah. Or like there's songs like Kwamucha that you can play and you can listen to it and you can get that feeling from it just by listening to the words and how the words are used throughout or how the melody is connected to the words, and how certain parts are pulled and going and that up and down, and that's like that's just part of the identity of the music and the identity connected to us. So it's hard to even translate that kind of stuff too. Yeah. But then again, what I'm worried about is that the younger generation, I haven't heard of any classes, even at the university, the Performing Arts University in Okinawa, of them teaching that for them to make music. Yeah. Because like classical music doesn't have to be 200 years old. There can be classical style music, like how in Hawaii you have new kahiko. Yeah, you have new kahiko that's being made. You can make new ones, but then there's still in Hawaii, like here at Kakaula, Kumukalena teaches that where there's certain melodies that go with certain things, and certain oli that represent certain things. Yeah, so that's how it was with Okinawa music too. But that's not being taught. So you have people making new songs like using kaja de fu melody with sad words inside. Yeah, which is not like really how it should be. Yeah. So how do you create new music, but then you have to have that understanding too. So yeah, it's like dance, like Okinawa dance too. You have people making new dances, but like people who even teach the dance don't really think about what the whole dance means. They just think that it's motions. And then one thing that we see a lot is like the song Mamidoma, where they're doing farming and they're cutting the grass with a sickle, and they're doing this. Yeah. So like they're grabbing the grass and they're going like this. Yeah. So if you know what really farming is like, or when you're cutting grass, you're gonna grab it here and you're gonna cut down here. There's not what you're gonna do up here. You're cutting the top of the grass. The long grass is still down here. Yeah, the weeds. So that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's how do you get people to understand that and look at that? Yeah.
And the other thing too is that with the loss of the language, people lose, language has a certain musicality to it as well, right? So, I mean, that's how you can tell somebody who's a foreign-born speaker, right? They call that accent, right? Something just doesn't sound native about the way they speak. And so what's happening, I think, in Okinawa is because of it. So because of the language isn't being used, and especially in local areas, then the nuances of the sound of the language itself is getting lost. And so I grew up listening to all of the different Ryukyu musics, right, from Yayama, Miyako, Okinawa, and if you listen to those long enough, you listen, especially the older artists, the older artists who spoke their native languages, as soon as the tone of their voice, you can tell what language they speak because the tone of their voice is different. And you can hear a foreign tone. So if an Okinawan person tries to sing a Miyako song, perfect diction, but the tone, the way that their voice rattles is different. It sounds different, right? Same thing any other way. You can hear when a Yayama person tries to sing a Miyako song, or a Miyako person tries to sing an Okinawan song, they have this major, again, it sounds different from the way Okinawan people's. And so the less people hear the sound of their language too, then the voice quality, the sound, the way that the vowels sound in each language is slightly different, and people start to forget that. And a lot of it is becoming the sound system itself across all the languages become very Japanese, right? And so then the way that language sounds, and then the way that they put it to music, it affects the way that people sing, right? There's very specific. The way that a Miyako person would interpret a certain line of music is going to be very different from the way that a person from Yayama would. Be very different from the way a person from Okinawa would. And so when you hear these slight differences, you can tell what their original language. Now what's happening is that people kind of smooth all those things over, and a lot of times, like especially a lot of newer folk singers, they're sounding more like Japanese pop singers. So musically it's perfect. They have better pitch than we do. They have better rhythm. They have superior projection. Musically, right? Talent-wise, they're way superior to all of us. But they don't have the knowledge of what their language sounds like in music. And so it's basically a Japanese voice singing these Okinawan sounds, right? And it sounds, and so it's a two-way thing. The people producing it don't know that they're producing it that way, but then also because people don't hear the languages enough, then they don't know what they're listening to. So, oh, this person's perfect. She should be the face of Yayama. She never grew up speaking Yayama songs. She never grew up singing Yayama songs. And for those of us who are used to hearing the native singers, it's like she's completely foreign. I don't care if she was born there, you know. And that's an issue that I see that's very, very common. One thing that we always make fun of people from Okinawa right now is so the Japanese u, right, is a lot more shallow than the Okinawan u, or the Ryukyu and u. So Ryukyu and u is closer to like the o sound, like school, cool. So you dip the back of your tongue, ku, yeah, ku. So yeah, juku nichi, right? Versus the modern Japanese u is much more shallow. Yes, ue, tsukue, yeah, tsukemon. The u is much more shallow. So when you apply it to Okinawan words, so Okinawan has a lot of nu, right? So if you say nu, what, right? Nu suga, nu yaga, right? Nu is it's a deeper u. But now with that Japanese u, it's nu yaga, nu suga, right? Nu suga, nu suga. You hear that, you don't hear the chest in the word anymore. And then when Okinawan people speak, they use that tone to actually express too. That's why like older people, that's Okinawan is a very sound-based language, right? There's a lot of onomatopoeia in it, so if it doesn't sound right, the message doesn't get quite projected as right too. So when that sound gets missing, part of the meaning of what you're saying is missing as well. So right, nusuga, nusuga, it hits differently when you hear that, right?
Even like when you guys hear it, like say, a good example is you guys are familiar with Tinsagu no Hana, yeah? And that's a popular song, especially with the young people in Okinawa. But then what we hear, or you guys can listen and see the difference, yeah? Tinsagu no hana ya chimisa chimisumiti, yeah? And then Tinsagu no hana ya chimisa chimisumiti. Yeah, what is the difference? Yeah, which one is the more Okinawan pronunciation? The first or second?
First.
Yeah. For us, when we hear that it's like, oh. Yeah, but the teachers in Okinawa are not fixing that because they're so used to hearing that sound that it's not being fixed. Yeah. So like that's part of the part of the breath of the language, part of the breath of the song. Yeah. So that's kind of what we mean when we're talking about today, like the life, how the language or the music has life. Yeah.
Is there a cultural institution in Okinawa that, example, do performances and they adhere to the older Okinawan or is there anything that preserves that?
You can maybe our answer is going to be kind of prejudiced to that because yes, they do. They because they have titles that they give people as like a dento sha or a hoji sha, which is supposed to be a person who is designated as a person who's going to preserve the traditional, like dento means tradition, yeah. Who's going to preserve that? But he can answer that better than.
No, I mean, I think institutionally, no, there's tons of institutions and groups preserving the arts. But the thing that we're kind of talking about today is the way that the language is infused within those arts, right? So, for example, like a weaver will learn how to weave, but a lot of the native language and using the way that the tools are named, the way that the techniques are named, some of those names will get passed on, but it's not that important. The more important thing is they know how to do it. So they can make that, they can create that piece, art piece, right? Potter, same thing. Maybe the name of the tools, the name of the techniques are not necessarily. They're just the names are kind of functional. So if it's in Japanese or whatever, or I'll say it in English even, whatever, right? As long as you know what we're doing, the main thing is you create this piece. And so then the music and the dance are like that. They're pieces. So the song is a musical piece. The dance is a dance piece. So they know how to create the pieces, but there's not that sensitivity on, am I moving like an Okinawan? Am I singing like an Okinawan? It's more just, we created this final, we can, the melody and the notes are exactly the same as this time and this time, so therefore we've successfully recreated this piece of music, this piece of dance, and that's enough. And that's the thing, is that that sort of intangible, the thing that makes your ear perk up and say, something doesn't sound right, that part is and we're not sure why it is that if they're not hearing it or seeing it, or if they just don't think that's important, we don't know. But that in almost all the institutions, whether it be these associations or the Performing Arts University or these performing arts clubs, they're focused on kind of producing finished pieces, but not the processes, not preserving the process that goes into making a piece. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
I think part of the problem too is, you know, how Okinawa was looked down upon for a long time, yeah. And it's just real recently that Okinawa culture and arts have become acceptable in Japan and have become popular. And it's more from, I think, about the 80s when their like TV dramas started coming out with Ryukyu no Kaze. I don't know if any of you remember. Ryukyu no Kaze was a TV series that came out. And then, you know, the Japanese media started picking that up, and then more dramas came on, like Chura-san and stuff like that. And then you have Okinawan singers that have become popular. Yeah. So all of a sudden there's this attention. Yeah. So it's like all of a sudden they're grabbing onto this attention, like, oh, we have recognition now. Yeah. So that the other, like the detailed stuff doesn't become important, and then what kind of adds on to that is the way that they're brought up in the educational system, or even just the Japanese system, where everything is departmentalized, is put into silos. So even if you're talking about preservation, they break those things up. They don't see everything, you know, together as one. So everything becomes like dissected. Yeah, so that's one of the problems.
Yeah, so language preservation, revitalization is its own silo. It exists separately from, so if anything, maybe the performing arts world will talk to the language people only in terms of just meaning. So basically, they could just pass them a dictionary, that should be enough. But there's no dialogue about the way that the language sounds, the way that, the way that the language feels, and how that translates into the performing arts. So it's all just interpretive, basically.
And then for language too, they haven't even gotten to the point where the Hawaiians are now, when they look at the language and one word now means all of this. Yeah. For Okinawans, they still go by black and white. This word means this. Yeah. Or it could be broken up, and you can see that the two interpretations of the two parts of the language, when you put it together, it makes the meaning of the word a lot deeper and a lot more connected to how our ancestors thought. Yeah. They don't look at that. They don't have that kind of thing yet. Because again, I think, you know, like what we talked about last week, I think with Lipsy, that they're thinking of preservation rather than perpetuation. Yeah. Because the urgency is not there yet. Because they still have over 3,000 speakers, native speakers, which is not a lot. And they don't realize that these 3,000 people are going to be gone in the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah.
Norman, would you say that it's like you say that it's like more preservation, would it also be like commodification of the arts?
Oh, definitely.
Like selling it as a product because that brings people to, you know,
Yeah,
is that
definitely.
more like important than
Yeah.
passing it on?
definitely. And then it ties kind of to Eric's point about the Okinawa booms. So it's, you know, it's easy to, it's a little, yeah, it's the commodification, but not in sort of insidious way that we're usually thinking of commodification. Because again, because there's so much stigma attached to being Okinawan things, the fact that we can produce something, put something out, and that it becomes something that Okinawa gets admired for, that's sort of its own demand. So it's a commodification, not necessarily just for profit anymore too, but also attention and acceptance is a currency. And so Okinawa has been starved for that currency for so long too, that more so than the money, it's the recognition. And so in that sense, it's the efforts to, that idea to live up to those, that level of recognition is also what's kind of contributing to the loss of sort of this indigenous view of what it should be. So the process, again, yeah, having this nice end product that's acceptable is more important than making sure that the process that got this to that place is being preserved as well. And more so, yeah, and the rush to kind of get more of that out. Because at the same time too, you know, it's, as much as the arts are flourishing, everybody's still aware that it's still not sustainable. Yeah, and so there's that rush to get this attention and acceptance, but also this rush to make sure that we keep on producing more artists because we don't have enough for several generations in the future. So in that process, right, it's, yeah, like what commodification ends up doing, it ends up cutting corners. And in the process of cutting corners, then the fragile processes that were used to create these things in the first place, those processes get lost. And so you have this rudimentary process on how to create this product. So how to sing this song, you have the process on how to do that. You have the process on how to dance this dance. But all the small organic factors that went into, you know, the thing about Okinawan arts that I think the biggest thing that gets forgotten is that you talk to every single old style artist, whether it be a potter, a weaver, dancer, they'll say the same thing, is that the art is the expression of the lived experience in life. Even if it's not necessarily their own, it's somebody's one. And without that, the end product being an expression of that, of life, of that living, then it's not the fulfillment of that product. So as beautiful as the piece can be, if it doesn't have that life force of that lived experience, that life that somebody lived, somebody felt and breathed, that doesn't appear in that work, then it doesn't really count. And I think that's the problem, right, is that life, that way of living, using that language on the everyday, you know, talking, joking, being able to make humor, being able to talk, be angry in your language, being able to, right, be sad in your language, that got disrupted, that got lost. So just being able to live in your language gets lost. And so when that gets lost, how does that part of that experience, how does that get transported into the art that you do, right? And then same thing, the surrounding around you, the way that families, what we sing about in the songs, how families get together and sing and dance. What does that feel like? Because singing and dancing is just for on the stage. You hire the group to dance on the stage for your grandma's party. We don't sing and dance, right? So how does that feel? What does that mean, right? And so when those are those organic processes that from everyday life, from existing as an Okinawan, when those things get stripped out, those things don't show up in the art anymore. So in the songs and all those pieces that you do. And, you know, across the board, all of the arts, you know, that the plus side of the commodification is that it's gotten to a much higher level, technically, right? We have much better musicians, we have much better dancers, we have much better weavers and potters on a technical level. You know, they make extremely high quality works material-wise, but what it's superior in material quality, it lacks in that life experience. Right? And that's, I think, part of the problem is, I don't know if people see the point of, we have to kind of bring this back down here. We have to kind of in order to be better artists, we have to reinvigorate our lives as indigenous people in order for indigenous arts to thrive as well. I don't know if people see that connection just yet. And it's harder, especially because of all the pressures to just to preserve that. Yeah, that it gets even harder to sort of go back and make that connection, because you're working on your license, your degree, or whatever to become this level of an artist. Like, well, I don't have time to go and be a language expert. I don't have time to go and talk to people in the community and learn about what it is to, I don't have time to laugh with people from my community and understand what it feels like to be in that space. It's like, I gotta be in the studio practicing. I gotta be in the workshop, putting this thing together. It's like, so that that compartmentalization of Japanese colonization is showing up in our arts as well. It's killing us from the inside, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's what is that? I guess the boom of Okinawan things is just like how the Japanese are taking Hawaiian stuff, and the Okinawans are looking. The way they look at it is they haven't got to the point where, like in Hawaii, at least, they got to a point where it's okay, enough already. If you're gonna do this at the hotel, it needs to be like this. We need to have this and this and this. Okinawa is just like, oh yeah, let's just do it, or create something new. This, as long as it's Okinawan, let's do it. And I don't know if some of you might remember, there was Minyo clubs in Honolulu before, where they had Okinawa music at the bars. Yeah, any of you went before to Okinawa, like Hanagasa or Sandy's, or itakoto arimasu? Minyo club in Honolulu. Honolulu Minyo club itta?
Oh, that's 25 years ago.
Yeah. It wasn't only popular with Okinawans, it was popular with the communities, because like Hanagasa used to have people lined up outside to get in. Yeah. Everybody used to go there on weekends, especially like around now, Shinenkai. After you go to your Shinenkai, everybody would go to the bar and go listen to some more Okinawa music over there. That was really popular before. In Okinawa, they have Minyo clubs, but then they don't really play like the kind of music that you guys heard today, because the tourists want to hear stuff from Begin. They want to hear, and that's not Okinawa traditional music. So you have the tourists telling the Okinawans what they want to hear. So you have these young musicians that graduate from the Performing Arts University. They're good musicians, they sing good Okinawa music, but then they're singing, like what Norman said, like Japanese style. Because the people want to hear, or the tourists want to hear that. To me, if they're gonna go Okinawa, you listen to what we play, you listen to our music, but that's not their thinking. Yeah, it's all about they're gonna get money for that, so that's what they're gonna do. And then like for my teacher in Okinawa, who's one of the top, she's one of the top recognized in Okinawa. That generation is getting old already. They're in their mid-80s to 90s, yeah. So she just designated her grandson as the person to take over for her, yeah. But it's a rushed thing. He has no, like what Norman was just talking about, he has no thing of the depth of the dance, of the music, of that kind of stuff. And she's pushing him to be the one to take over. And he's been designated as that. There was a big ceremony and all this kind of stuff, but he's gonna be the next in line, and pretty much that's what the next generation of the ones who are gonna take over the lead for performing arts is like. They don't have that because nobody sits down with the elders and, and then he doesn't, that's the grandma, but they don't sit down and talk about, oh, how was it, back then? What does this dance mean? What does it, what, all of that kind of stuff, because they don't have time. They're too busy doing their own things, or it's not important to them. What's important is like what Norman was talking about, just being able to put it out, to perform it. That's it. Yeah. So what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen to it? I don't know. But even to get students, like students who come to me for dance, a lot of them don't come to me because they just want to learn lots of dances. Yeah, I don't teach lots of dances. You got to be able to explain to me what the dance means. You have to learn the language. You have to learn the background. You have to learn the genealogy of where it came from. Yeah, because Okinawa dance to me is like hula. Like on this island, anybody who sees hula can recognize the Kanaka Ole style. Yeah, even in the little kids that dance it, that, oh, that's Kanaka Ole. So in dance too, that's what it's an honor and a privilege to be able to dance that style and to be able to, I guess, continue on the life of your teacher through the dance. And not only your teacher, but the teacher's teacher, where it comes from, all the way back, yeah, in that genealogy. So again, the genealogy part is really important too, yeah. So it's like, like when Norman and them go back and sing, people can tell where their lineage is from, because they've kept that. They didn't change. Yeah. So that's where we're that's where we're at.
But I say this a lot, and I say this all the time, and I'm very repetitive about it. But from that perspective, right, what we do as musicians and dancers, as performing artists and as teachers in those arts, sometimes we get overly recognized because that's viewed as that's culture. That's the only culture. But thinking about where the deep roots of our culture come from and the importance of, right, the way that, essentially the way that we exist together as Okinawans, right, the way that we communicate. So sitting down and laughing, right, next time sit down with Sayako-san, the way she laughs and all that, that's a cultural act. I mean, that's the act of sharing a laugh, sharing ideas, sharing stories, that's a cultural act in and of itself. It's a cultural practice, right? So you may not be able to sing a song, you may not be able to dance, but that's the very least you can do in participating in culture. And don't take that for granted. That's a very important culture, because for us, if we didn't have those moments too, we wouldn't be able to sing and dance and perform the way that we do. We wouldn't understand the music and the importance of the music and the importance of the words if we didn't have those moments. If we didn't have all those people that just sat down, that drank with us, that fed us, that had those, that stayed up all night just talking about all different kind of things, just laughing all night. If we didn't have those experiences, we wouldn't know what these songs mean. And if we didn't know what those songs mean, we wouldn't be able to teach those to you. Yeah. And so those are very, very important cultural acts. Those are very, very important cultural practices. So those practices and those acts still exist in your families and in your spaces. So try to recognize those too. And so, yeah, do do the cultural, the overtly cultural practices, definitely, that helps. But also remember where it points back to, that it's not just about creating that product. It's not just about being the best singer, or best dancer, best mover, best whatever, creator of goods. It's, again, what is that, right? What is that way of existing, way of living as an Okinawan person? How does that translate into who you are? And then from there, the idea is that the more that you harness inside, or like what all the songs talk about, this idea of prosperity, what you gather inside from your experiences, from your relationships and all that, good and the bad, all those things come together, and those things become part of whatever it is that you output. So if your output is going to be a song, your life is going to come out into that song. If you're a dancer, your life comes out into that dance. If you're creating something with your hands are going to create these things based on what you feel and what you, yeah. And so if those things that you're doing is related to your ancestors, the closer that you understand what your ancestors might have felt, what your ancestors might have said, the way that they said it, it's easier for those things to come out in the way that you express them. Yeah? So yeah, just keep your eyes and ears open as well for that.
Okay, so again, thank you guys for today and joining us, and you guys online joining us. And then if you have any questions, we can talk about it over lunch. And then you guys can send, those of you online can send to the email, I guess. But other than that, again, Ihei debut.